Hello YouTube. As you can see, I'm a new creator, and I decided to join in on the Big Bot Bash, even though, I wasn't invited. But I thought I wanted to do it anyway because it was a fun idea to start out. Basically, the Big Bot Bash is when you get a bunch of old plastic junk stuff and make it into robots. So basically here, I was studying a Tic Tac box that I was going to use for the main bodies so I could sketch it and figure out what I wanted to do for the robot. I then grabbed a bead that I was going to use for the head of the body. Basically, my idea for the body was that he had this mechanical claw that was attached to his underbelly that would scavenge a planet to pick out trash and old bits and use a gun on the side of his body to vaporize it and try to clean it because humans couldn't do it themselves. So I skipped a little bit ahead in the sketching process. But here I'm drawing where the underbelly opens and reveals the claw that comes out to grab the trash. Here I started to draw the legs, which was a pretty important part of the build, as it needed these long spindly legs that almost looked like the spider's legs to crawl over the large, rough terrain of the trash-filled planet. Skipped a little bit ahead again, because I want to show you the finished sketch and get onto the build. So here I've drawn more parts of the body, drawn wires and armor plates, and finished 2 of the legs. This is the finished piece of artwork, with all 4 legs, all the body sketch, and all the claw done. Now, it's time for the build. So here, I grabbed the bead that I was going to use for the head, and started to figure out how I was going to build the neck and glue it all together. For the neck, I grabbed some armature wire that I was going to cut up and use for a little robotic neck. So, for this entire build, I will be using a hot glue gun to stick everything together. Now, it can be a little bit annoying sometimes if you burn yourself, it'll leave those little strands that look like cobwebs, but I'll work with what I have. Here, I started to figure out what I wanted to do for the legs, so I grabbed the armature wire again, and cut up 4 mostly equally sized pieces to use for the legs. Obviously, my camera angle is really bad here, so you can't really see me cutting them up, but that's okay. Here I started to bend the armature wire for the legs to give them more of a spider-like pose, so it was kind of bent up and then straight down. Here I found some beads that I was going to use to stick to the body so I could stick the legs through. Obviously, my camera angle was bad again, but yeah. So here I've skipped ahead a little bit. The head is glued on and all 4 of the legs have been attached to the main body. So now we can start working on the body and other parts of the legs. So here I got this little container from like a set of army toys. I was going to use it to bulk out some of the main body. Now, the main inspiration for this video was the Big Bot Bash, which was run by Bill Making Stuff, who is my main inspiration for this build. Here I've got some garden wire that I'm going to use as the tentacle arm that comes out from the underbelly to attach to the main hand to. This was a little bit finicky, as I had to use a lot of hot glue just to keep that little wire in place and the bottom hatch in place. But I got it stuck in the end. Here I have some sheets of EVA foam that I'm going to cut up and use as little armor plates for the legs and body. As you probably already know, this is my first video on YouTube and I would love support. So please subscribe and like the video if you enjoy. Something that I really want this video to be is an inspiration for young artists and people. I want this video to prove that no matter how old or young or your ability in art, that anyone can go on this website and show. Here I'm pulling off those annoying little cobweb strings that go everywhere. Again. Here I'm trying to bulk up the body again by adding more armor plates. If you can't already tell by the time of this recording, I'm a little bit sick and have a cough and I'm congested, so my voice sounds a little bit odd. I'm finally figuring out how to build the big hand, which is probably the main part of this build. Now this is probably a little bit like a tangent, but this channel will probably be focused on art, but also potentially video games. I don't know, I might play video games with my friends and stuff on this channel. I'm not sure yet. Here I use some thinner armature wire that I was going to use for the fingers of the large claw. Since I'm probably going to make a separate video on the painting of this model, because I'm not sure how I'm going to paint it yet, I might as well tell you some lore about this robot. I don't have a name for it yet, but I'll figure one out. Just for story purposes, I'll call it the Walker for now. So, the Walker was a robot invented after the planet went a little bit crazy, like an apocalypse. Now, originally this robot was made to defend old bunkers that humans would hide out during the apocalypse. But one day when the bunker was broken into by a giant entity, which a bunch of entities lurked the planet now after the apocalypse, one broke in, killed almost everyone there, but spared the robots because they didn't even know what they were doing. They didn't stand a chance. So the entity left, and all that was left was the Walker. Now without anyone, the Walker, decided to walk. It walked and walked as its robotic legs crushed trash under it. It eventually found a home in the mountains, but disliked it because of all the trash that was below it. So with its giant claw, it started to clean. With a gun that was attached to the side of it, he vaporized the trash until he made a little spot where he could rest and live out his life. That was until a call rung through the robot's robotic sound system. A call that seemed distant, but close at the same time. And again, it started to walk and walk and walk. It walked for hours and hours until it ran into a big entity that almost looked familiar. The entity talked in a cryptic language that the robots could not understand, or at least it thought it couldn't. Until it understood, it listened close as the entity described how it got here and how the entities broke through another realm into the human world and destroyed everything and caused the apocalypse, and how the robots and the entities were the only thing left, so they could either live in harmony or fight. Now what the entity didn't know is that the Walker had made a very good human friend when he was at the bunker. His friend's name he was never told, but he remembers him like it was yesterday. And because of that, the robot didn't want to work in peace with them, but they didn't think it could stand a chance to fight against the large creature. The walker finally picked up the courage and just said, "No." The creature lunged at him. The walker didn't know what to do, so it quickly released its claw from its underbelly, grabbed the creature in the face. The creature shrieked and shrieked, until finally, the walker closed its claw, and then silence. Here, I finally started to finish off the claw and try to find the right beads for it. Here, I started to figure out how I wanted the legs to look, and found these beads to use as like almost ball joints for the, well, joints of the legs. Here, I found these beads that would be perfect for the feet. Also, if I do another video, I'll probably be painting the walker. And in that video, I'll probably explain more about the world that these guys live in, and how the apocalypse started, and like how all the entities got here, and all that jazz. Here, I'm adding the armor plates to the legs to bulk the legs out. To bulk the legs out, I'm using AVA foam sheets as like sheets of metal and armor plates. Here, I've skipped a little bit ahead, where I've basically finished the armor plating for the legs, and I'm gonna get a move on to the body now. Here, I was not going to make you watch me attach the other armor plates to the other legs, so we'll just skip to that. And by the power of editing, that side of the legs are done. Now I'm using more of the garden wire to act as wires under the legs and attach to the body. If I'm being honest, I don't know how all these wires would actually work if this thing was a real robot. Don't think it would function, like, at all. But don't let that stop your creativity, as it will always just look cool. In art, it's always the rule of cool. Eventually, I finished up the wires and started thinking about the body and used more EVA foam sheets as metal armor plates. Lars from the edit here. If I'm being honest, while editing this, I didn't realize how hard narration would be. I don't know how these other YouTubers do it. Now I was trying to, add some other bits, and as filmmaking stuff would call it, greeblies. But also I had to fill in this little gap that was over by the, green power bank looking thing on the side of his body. As you can see here, I just decided to put armor plates there. No one will ever know. Here I started to try to bulk out more of the back using armature wire, EVA foam, beads, and hot glue. If I'm being honest, I'm just really excited to see when this is fully painted and primed. My days, I really need to figure out these camera angles next time. Completely gluing off screen. Well done, me. Adding more wires that I guess connect from this, like, I don't know, like fuel tank from the back of his body to his upper body. Which again, don't really know what that would do for the body, but whatever. Finally, in the final stretch of the build, as I'm very, very close to being done with it. Here I'm bulking out the body more, using more EVA foam sheets. Seriously though, these things are really useful and make it look really good. Here I was just gluing the armor plates at the top of the body just to make it, you know, more cohesive with the rest of it. For once, I'm being smart and using something else to press the hot glued items down instead of my fingers. Yeah, I've definitely burnt myself quite a few times. And it is not fun. Here I'm just trying to get rid of more of those pesky hot glue cobwebs. Finally adding these antennas to the top of the robot. Don't know what they do, but they're there. Here, I actually finally remembered about the underbelly and started to glue an EVA foam sheet there. Again, with the camera angles, I really need to fix that. Here are what I would call the results. Obviously, he's not finished yet, and he's not painted, but this is what I have for now. And if this, you know, gets enough, like, recognition, I guess, I'll make it something else. Well, I guess that's my first video. Thanks for having me. Seriously. Goodbye, and hopefully see you soon. Please subscribe.